Hey guys, Anthony 4x4 Diesel. We're going to do a video on the pros and cons of auto versus manual. Now you've probably seen it over the years, over and over again, auto, manual, what's better. It seems to be less popular these days, the argument about what's better, auto versus manual. There's a lot of pros and cons of both, actually. There's quite a lot of, one's better for one thing and one's better for the other. But I just want to firstly clarify also on, I think might have been the previous video where we did 1KD versus 1KZ versus whatever, talked about those engines a little bit. And I mentioned that we go for a drive each afternoon or evening to the shops with the kids. Yes, not into the shops, okay? So with the coronavirus and how things are in Australia or in Melbourne at the moment, it is mixed messages still. They're kind of saying, well, they are saying, oh, it's clear as anything, stay home unless you need to go to work, right? But the thing is, by having retail shops open and takeaway shops open and things like this, which are not essential, it is essential for those people to have a job and those businesses to make money usually, but it's not essential that anybody goes and gets fish and chips tonight. But we just drove past a fish and chip shop and there's people standing around all over the joint outside. Now they've still got to go in and out of that same place, probably touch the same things, and if it's anything like other places we've seen and seen photos of, basically, so I'm just getting a bit distracted. We've got an ambulance in the right lane. I'm just trying to signal for the person that was in front of them, trying to make it obvious to move over. But there you go, a bit of action. So hopefully it's not a coronavirus patient. I wouldn't imagine so. So look, we're going to talk about auto, manual. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify, no, we're not going into the shops every day, absolutely not. Our shopping will be less than once a week. We're going to go there as few and far between times as possible and take every precaution. We've got a whole heap of precautions we're taking. There's ways to get things done safely, and that's what we're doing. We'll either not do things or we'll do it safely. It's not worth the risk, and we're encouraging others to do the same. Now, let's get on the topic, auto versus manual. So, by the way, I'm just going to pop down. We're going to have a look at a few shopping centre car parks. We're going to have a look at Bunnings, have a look at some takeaway stores, and they'll distract us a little bit. But the talk is auto versus manual. Now, let's start off being not too specific. General information, generally what's better about an auto versus a manual. So, obviously, obvious reasons. The auto is easy and lazy. You don't have to change gears. Anyone can drive it. The manual requires a bit more work, clutch control. I'm not going to go into and explain that. And you've got to work your left leg a little bit. So I suppose if you've got a crook leg, knee or back problem, then auto is definitely for you. They're the obvious things. Now I suppose maybe the less obvious things or things people don't think about. Manual's really good for reliability, okay? If there's a problem with, let's say for example, perhaps a starter motor or something, a manual you can roll start. If you've got a flat battery, you've got an alternator problem, this may or may not work depending how bad your alternator is, or if you've got any other sort of starting issue to do with your starter motor, well, you can roll starter manual, right? You can park it on a hill and every time you get going, you just roll down and get started. Now, so that's a positive. Generally, a manual will use less fuel. I suppose depends on the driver. Now, it depends how you drive, of course. Maybe not always. With the transmission, the automatic transmission, I suppose you've got a lot more slip where the manual you're locked into the gear you select. Okay, so directly driven. Auto sort of slips a little bit, may not pick the right gears as well as what you would if you're a good driver. Okay, reliability wise, again, this is going to go a bit more specific, but generally manuals kind of used to be more reliable than autos, okay, but things have changed a bit, and with Toyotas, obviously the autos are very reliable. It's not like they had problems, so being non-specific, if you include other brands, then a manual's more reliable. But if you're talking about Toyotas, well, kind of an auto is more reliable because The problem is you just never really know when your clutch is going to let you down. Okay, you can base it on averages, and just while we're talking about averages, clutches on Prados and Hiluxes, the most common time we hear of a clutch needing replacement or seems to have worn out, it is about 200 to 250,000 k's, which is quite a long time. So if you get up to 200,000 and so far so good, might be worthwhile replacing the clutch. Because I mean, if you go on trips, if you're just using the car, going to the shops and back sort of thing, like what we're doing now on this drive, just going down to the shops, going down to school or going to work, not far, whatever, then there's no need to do it as prevention. But if you're planning or regularly doing longer trips, bigger trips, you're far from home in remote places, you might want to replace that clutch as prevention. So there's a cost there. It is obviously cheaper to buy new cars in manuals. On the left there, we've got a bloke walking down the road with a mask on. That's pretty cool. Looks like a decent one as well. We'll wait for this car. Have a bit of a peek around the shopping centre car park. Office Works is going off. They're flat out in there. So obviously some people are doing more business than usual. Auto versus manual. Just trying to remember what we're talking about while I'm getting distracted looking around here at these. Who's in the shopping centre? And we stopped there for the video. So the positive of an automatic, they are very reliable these days, particularly Toyotas. I would choose the auto as being more reliable for those reasons as mentioned, to do with, you know, not having a clutch, and for knowing how bulletproof these transmissions are. Let's talk about the A750F, which is behind the 5-speed auto. That is behind both the V6 and the common rail diesel in the 120 Prados and the 150 Prados with those engines, until they change to the 6-speed. That's a different story. We might get to that. Really awesome transmission. I'll say, you know, bulletproof type thing, because we just don't see or hear about problems with them. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to park over here. I want to point out the amount of people walking out. We've got someone with a trolley. This is really cool. Straight ahead, there's someone with a trolley. She's done her weekly shopping, hopefully. So I'm just going to park here in a position that shows, it doesn't show everyone walking out, but I'm just going to park here for a minute, and you can watch what I've seen each day, and that is people walking out with a small amount of, in and out for a small amount of items. We might get our view blocked here. We'll try this for now. People walking in and out with not much. Okay, what this would mean is you're paying a lot more regular visits to the shops. That means you're at higher risk, you know. If people need to stay away from each other and only do essential things, it isn't essential to go and buy 2 or 3 things, you know, a couple of things, what you can hold in your arms, or one bag. See another bloke walking in, he's got his backpack. Maybe he's a worker. Oh, look, I don't know. You can, I don't want to judge it. Let's zoom in a bit closer and have a bit of a look. You can have a look there. It's all about listening to me, I suppose. Like I said, we're going to get distracted by this. I hope people that are watching, I hope everyone's going okay. I just think the sooner that we sort this out and lock it down so we can stop the spread, the sooner we can get back to normal. And I suppose we've got to trust the government and what they're doing. They've got the information. So I suppose we've just got to roll with, there you go, there's that view block, what we're talking about. But anyway, you get that. Maybe I should have picked another spot. We can always move. But there's a lot of people should be coming in on their own. So I'm seeing, okay, there's couples walking in and out. There's no need for 2 people to be there. 1 person. Have your shopping list, fill your trolley. I don't mean, you know, collecting stuff you don't need. I mean, get enough stuff for the next week. Don't be here again tomorrow because you're not at work, you're not at school. So I'm just going to duck down and get a couple of things, right? And that's something that we normally do as well, right? I'll be down the post office and I'm just going to duck in and grab something while I'm there. Well, we've got to get out of that habit. We've got out of that habit, okay? It's a once a week thing, unless there's something we really essentially need. Anyway, back on topic, autos. Autos, okay, let's talk about the difference between, again, back to general information, the difference between auto and manual while going off-road, full driving situation. So, let's say you're out in the Victorian high country, out in those hills there, and you're coming down a hill. Well, for coming down a hill, manual is obviously better. You get a lot better speed control, so it can control your speed better coming down, select your gear, first or second, and that's that. And you've got really awesome speed control. It's just so much better than an auto. It really is. Don't get me wrong, there's positives of the auto as well, because the auto, it has a different, I suppose, range, if you like. So in a manual, quite often first is too low and second might be a bit quick, where in an auto, coming down in first is kind of in between first and second in a manual. So yeah, thanks for moving over, awesome. So look, that's the deal there. Manual for coming down. If you're in traditional full driving before technology came in, and it still works better than technology in my opinion, was, you know, there was stall starts, stall stops, this sort of thing, and you'd come down a hill and you'd be using your engine braking, so again that diesel engine and the manual, to control the speed, and basically that would work awesome. If you wanted to come to a stop, you just switch it off, okay, and the engine will come to a gentle stall. It's a more controllable stop than hitting the clutch and hitting the brakes and taking off in a slide down a hill. I'm talking serious four-wheel driving. So here's a bloke, look what he's got in his hand. This is what I mean. Oh no, I think he's one of the workers actually, but okay, fair enough, he works at Woolworths. Here we go. Anyway, I'm just trying to get a spot over here where we can get a view. No, it's not a car park. Get a view on the people coming out, but anyway. Basically, coming down, manual's the go, okay? Manual's the go. Going up, manual can work well, but auto's definitely better. It's smoother, so when you're going up those rocky, rough hills, and of course for that matter, even if it was wet, slippery and muddy, I suppose the good thing about a manual, you can force gear selection, which is better, but you've got gear changes are your disadvantage. So depending how good you are with your gear changes, whether it's good or not. So going up the hill, it's a bit rough, it's a bit bumpy sometimes, and basically you may be jumping, you know, the vehicle's kind of jumping over rocks a little bit, if you know what I mean. This is really cool. I'm going to show you, this guy's got a mask, but again, minimal shopping, couple little bags. Not worth the trip. Not worth the trip in my opinion, for a couple of things, what you can carry in your hands in the shops every day. So up the hill, auto's awesome. You know, you can be in low range, you can, depending on how steep it is, how rough it is, you might select the highest gear you want it to go into, and it will start. You might want to use second start. I think that's really good. First, to me, first low range, so this is I suppose a little bit of driving as well. First low range, I'd only ever use that if it's really steep and kind of a rough surface, not loose, but kind of rough, so like really rocky, where you've got some rock steps to go over it, something you don't do with momentum. You really need to crawl over it, but because it's steep, second start, so second low range, it's a little bit, it loads up the engine too much, if you know what I mean. So it's loading up the engine and it's kind of working it, and it just doesn't work as well as going back to first. You've got to be careful of that torque. You've got a lot of sort of power and torque under your foot then once you're in low range first, but if you're going really slow and gently and you've got to have a steady foot, that's where first works. Any other time, usually a little bit more momentum, or if it's a little bit loose or a little bit wet, you want a little bit more momentum and a little bit less torque. So second starts the go. So you may let it use second or third, okay? So uphill, auto, that's the go. So full driving, uphill, auto is definitely the advantage. I hope I've covered that and tried to explain it a little bit. Manual coming downhill because of the speed control, and if it gets slippery, dangerous conditions, manual coming down rules. Now, I'll just touch on technology. There's technology buttons that are supposedly do things that, you know, you kind of can't do yourself, maybe in an auto, but keeping it really slow and controlled, I still think works a lot better than the technology. The technology is quite hostile, I'll call it. It's quite hostile. I wouldn't want to rely, some of the full driving we've done over the years, I wouldn't like to rely on just more people over there with a few things in their hands. Four people together, Yep, 4 people getting in one car. So they all risk contamination going to the shops together. I just don't get that. That's not stay home if you can. Send one person. I think one person was carrying whatever they needed, okay? Just crazy, you know? Talk about get distracted, yeah? But that's why I came here to get distracted, because there's 2 purposes to the video. Hopefully you're still watching and we're going to learn. We've still got more to talk about autos and manuals, and in the Prados specifically which ones are better than the others and why. We've got some more important information, but what's more important than auto versus manual? Who really gives us stuff? It's all these people that aren't getting it, okay? And you might say I'm doing the wrong thing because they said stay home. You're right, but I'm in the car, I'm safe. I'm not going in the shops, right? So what I'm trying to say is they're saying shops are open, retail's open, takeaways open, office workers open, Bunnings is open. There's safer ways to do it. Home delivery for all of that, please, right? Close it or home delivery it. There's less jobs in some areas, of course, and that's unfortunate, but it creates jobs in other areas as well. We need to control it, right? So there needs to be measures taken to control it, and 4 people going to the shops to get 2 items isn't how it's done. And this is what I've seen every day for the last week now, and it's not changing. So the people that are at home doing the right thing, they're seeing it on the news, they're watching ABC, they're watching Facebook, watching whatever you want to watch. More people, okay? 2 people are walking on their own. They've walked out with nothing, so they just went to get, no mask, they just went to get some fresh air, I guess. I'm going to change spots. And another person walking behind them, he had a mask on, he's taken it off, he's got one bag, there he is, just the indicators, he's taken the mask, so it was good he was wearing a mask. Or was he? No, he wasn't, I'm confused. There's another couple behind him, they're walking past now in the middle, it's hard for you to see. Again, just one bag, a few minimal things there, hard for you to see. Bad positioning, and it's getting dark. So anyway, back to the topic. I'll move around a little bit anyway. Here you go, I'll back out here and you can have a look. Another couple that went shopping together, they got a bag each, one person could have carried. There's no trolleys, guys, right? Everybody's doing the wrong thing, there's no trolleys, it's crazy. It's so annoying because I know so many of you at home doing the right thing to stop the spread, and there's so many people that are just not getting it. Here we go, we've got a couple of trolleys, but barely worth taking a trolley. Right, there you go, there's a trolley on the right, there's 2 people walking next to them, there's another trolley over there. Okay, so she's got a slab of water, that doesn't look like a week's supply of food, you know what I mean? You get my point? I think that's what people need to do, a week's supply of food, and get out of there. This car park will be empty, because if you buy 15 times more, it's 15 times longer than you need to be back here again, okay? Basic math, I'm just trying to help, right? Guys, you know, share the information to you. We've all got to sort of try and help each other. Help your friends, help your family, share the information. And, you know, talk to your neighbour, talk to, if you see someone, maybe just say, you know, have you considered this, you know what I mean? Just, you know, nicely. I know it's hard, some people are going to get hostile, whatever. Maybe Office Works closed at 7 because their car park over there is emptying out. Fast and the Furious is out. Anyway, yeah, over there is looking a bit quiet. Office Works car park, it's been going off every night. Let's go check out Bunnings. So, where were we? Auto versus manual. We covered the full driving thing, downhill, uphill. What else do we have to say? We've talked about clutches. So you've got clutches to be concerned about and do as prevention, where with an auto you don't. You've got to change oil in either the auto or the manual. The auto is often not part of service, so I suppose manuals you're going to be changing oil every 40,000. The auto, well, you could do it that often or less. I'm waiting for someone yet. He finally put his indicator on. People have trouble indicating 30 metres before the turn like they're meant to. Just a little reminder, you know, perhaps what people should do. Anyway, let's check out Bunnings. Let's see what we get here, because there's a lot of cars here as well, quite a lot. Let's see what the go is. We'll go park up the end. So I'll park it up so I can concentrate on what I need to tell you specifically about these Prado transmissions and run through the different models. I'm not going to remember all the numbers. Too many numbers, you know, we've got phone numbers, account numbers, all sorts of numbers. I don't know, part numbers. I've got a lot of part numbers for you, but probably not the one you're after just at the moment. So just back it in here. Again, you probably can't see that much, but if I get distracted, I'll tell you what I'm seeing. Okay, we'll just park it here for a minute. Okay, so back into the older ones like the 1KZ type thing, 120 Prado 1KZ or the V6. So from about, the reason I'll talk about those is there's not many 90 series around anymore. I suppose the majority of people are in 120s and mainly 150s. So back then it was the 4-speed auto. There's something or other 343 I think was the number on the transmission. 4-speed auto. It's in the Hiluxes, it's in the Prado 120s. Okay, the 4-speed is, yes, behind the, I'm just trying to get it right, I'm trying to think. So it was a 4-speed auto and a 5-speed manual in the 120 actually. Yeah, to see an art change, that's the thing, right? So let's be clear. So the 5-speed manual was behind the 1KZ diesel, okay? And when the 1KD came out, there was a 6-speed manual, right? So 2 different transmissions, and we'll get to the importance of the difference in those in a minute. And the 4-speed auto was behind the 1KZ, and if I got it right, when the 1KD came out, that's when they went to the 5-speed auto. So they went to the 5-speed auto. So the V6 must have got the 5-speed auto at about the same time anyway, probably sometime in 2006. Not sure about that, I can't remember. Never owned a V6 Prado. I owned a lot of other Prados, never owned a V6 petrol Prado. So never saw that many of them. They're just, as I said in the other video, they're just a very small percentage of the market, to be honest. A lot of people walking in and out of Bunnings empty-handed too. A lot of people going in and out. I'm thinking if it's not, I know people want to get stuff done around the house, don't they, because they're stuck at home. So look, it's a pretty open place, open flowing air. I think they should keep all the doors open. I think people should probably wear masks and stuff, would help. And hey, go and hand sanitizer, clean yourself up. You know what, maybe this thing doesn't spread as bad as what we've been led to believe by some false media as well. Because look, they've pointed out that the spread for us hasn't been as bad as some other countries. So keep your distance to people, and fingers crossed, eh? Hopefully it's mainly just the people that are coming in from overseas that couldn't stay home when they knew the Chinese virus was out there and spreading to other countries, but they still went on holidays. Yes, should have stayed home. Getting distracted again. So I want to talk about the difference between the 5-speed manual, which is a really good transmission, R50, R151, right? That's the 5-speed manual transmission that was behind, you know, it's in the Hiluxes for a long time. For a very long time they were in the Hiluxes, and they were in the Prado 120 behind the 1KZ. That's an awesome transmission. They do have some problems, okay? Last time I checked, they're only about $2.5 grand brand new from Toyota. I've heard some rumors that they're not available anymore. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Could be true, but I think I checked once since I heard that rumor and it was still available. So 2.5 grand, maybe less, probably because they had plenty of them. The reason we like that transmission, and it doesn't seem to be too many problems with them. There is some issues, right? I think it all comes down to oil changes and how you use them is a big part of it. But there does seem to be some problems with them. Not being specific because we don't do transmissions and haven't seen, well, we saw an issue with one, that was one of our own vehicles. Other than that, we don't hear about much, just the odd one we read about on the internet. So they've, on the front where the clutch is, on the where the thrust bearing runs up and down, it's a cast section. It's cast iron. It could easily be unbolted. It retains the bearing at the front, right? It could the cover. It could easily be unbolted and replaced. It doesn't really get damaged, and you could clean it up with some wet and dry and give it a polish up, and happy days when you did your clutch and replaced the bearing. Awesome. The problem with the 6-speed manual, this is why, one of the reasons I wouldn't own a 6-speed manual, okay? I really wouldn't. This is one of the reasons. I'm going to go into some other reasons also. Because what happens is the whole front section of the transmission, including that snout where the bearing runs up and down, it's alloy, okay? Aluminum. Now, that section right there, that is part of the whole front of the transmission, the whole bell housing and everything, right? So if you get mud, dust and dirt and stuff in there, as a lot of people do, it acts like sandpaper. It's really grit, dirt, and it just wears it like sandpaper, right? So if you're constantly doing trips on beaches with sand and water and mud and things like that, it gets in there and it just eats away at it, right? And people do have a lot of problems with this. They really do. Now, again, you've got to look at the use. If you're using it on the highway for towing, manual's awesome, okay? That's what I haven't said yet. Manual is awesome for towing. Manual rules for towing. It really does, because you're going to get your best economy, because you can select your gear, and when you've got that weight behind you, you choose what gear you're going to be in to go up that hill. The autos have some sort of little issues. Well, it's not really issues, but the way they behave. It's electronics, right? It's technology. You're going up a hill, you want it to go to the next gear, it won't go there. You're on a certain gradient and it's $3.5 grand and it just won't go to the next gear, right? So disadvantages of autos. You might be coming to a hill on cruise control, and autos sometimes, you know, you're towing your boat or your caravan and it kicks down sooner than it should, right? And then torque converters unlock, and you know, so it's revving a bit more, using a bit more fuel and things. This is where manual rules, right? So the 6-speed manual I don't have a problem with if you don't mind changing gears and you're not really taking off-road much. You know, you're mainly doing some touring, mainly blacktop, plenty of towing, a bit of dirt road every now and then, but you're not planning to get into bog holes and mud and things like that. Then it should serve you well. I don't have a problem with that. I actually like manuals. But my choice has always been the A750F, and that's because that's the 5-speed auto in the 120 behind the Common Rail 1KD. It's also behind the V6. It's not behind the 1KZ, okay? And it's also in the 150 Prado behind it. So all the 1KDs that are auto in Prados have got the A750F, and that's come out of other Toyotas use it, and other, probably one of the best transmissions ever built, and I'd love to call it bulletproof. It really is. It's a bulletproof transmission. They say sealed for life, doesn't mean it need any maintenance. People tell you, oh, you need a coolant, you need to do it. You don't actually need to, because we've seen cars with over 400,000 Ks that it's never been done. So there's your evidence. You don't need to do anything. However, oil changes are one of your biggest things. It's the lifeblood of the transmission. Best thing you can do is change that oil, okay? Having a cooler, under some circumstances it's worth doing, but it's certainly not something that's needed for the reasons I just explained. It's not needed, but if you want to look after it even better, if you're doing a lot of towing, you're living up the north part of Australia where it's kind of always hot, and you're doing a lot of towing, an auto cooler's a great idea. And those brackets from Kaon, so if you do need an auto cooler bracket, kaon.com.au, awesome gear, Australian made, Australian company, and of course remember to support them in these times, particularly the Australian businesses, particularly with Australian staff and Australian made. This is a time we really need to stop and think about all those necessities that we haven't got, that we're relying on other countries. You know, I don't know what you've seen, but some of the things that I've seen people have done and left us shortchanged on, you know, PPE, the personal protective equipment for, you know, the medical industry at the moment. There's a big shortage, not good. Anyway, you can find that story yourself. I'm not here to tell you that story too much. We're just here to have a look at the Bunnings traffic, eh? Get in and have a bit of a closer look. Who's getting in and out that door and what's going on. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's all good. Each to their own, whatever. The point is teamwork, guys, teamwork. If people are letting down the team, then it's not going to work out. It makes it harder for longer for everyone. There's people that are struggling. People have lost their jobs. They can't pay rent. They can't pay their mortgages. Okay, I think the government's doing what they can to help out. Don't expect it to happen in the first hour or the first day or the first week. These things take time. If you rush them, they might come out with something stupid like doubling the dole payment. Okay? Oh, that's right, they did that, didn't they? So, sorry to all you guys that are on New Start or whatever, that you've been like that a long time and that's how you live and you're on the couch. You're not really getting disadvantaged by much. Nothing changes for you, so I don't know why you need double the money, because you're probably not going to go spend it. Should I say this in this video? Well, thumbs up if you think I should have. And, you know, if there's anyone there that thinks that that's not a fair comment, I'll say it again. New Start payments, as far as I know, were doubled, okay? Now, someone that's on New Start or looking for work already, that's been that way for months or years, I'd suggest they haven't lost their job and none of their living expenses have gone any higher. so they're not disadvantaged at all. So they certainly don't need any more money. Now, I'm not saying that that payment's enough, but I also say that you should be grateful for what you've got. You're lucky to get that. A lot of countries don't have that, okay? We say the taxpayer's paying for it. The problem is, guys, the costs of running this country the way they run it are higher than what the taxpayer pays. I don't know if you understand that. It's like running a business on an overdraft. That's what we've been doing for years, spending money we haven't got. And there's a massive chunk of that happening at the moment. And I'll just inform you, to the best of my knowledge, that means we borrow money and we pay interest on it. Who do you reckon's got the money? Who do you reckon we borrow the money from, and who do you think we're paying the interest to? Everything's made in China, okay? So be aware of that if you're not, okay? I don't know everything, but I think I know a bit, and I look forward to seeing some comments correcting me if I'm wrong, or add some information there if you need to. And we'll get back on that topic again. Auto manual. Okay, so the 5-speed auto we don't have a problem with, although they have some issues. The 6-speed, we don't really see any issues other than that snout, the alloy wearing. Big, expensive job to change that when you come around to doing your clutch. So if you're an off-roader, avoid the manual in the 6-speed. Right, now, I haven't even looked to see what 6-speed manuals in a 1GD, that's the newer vehicle, 2015 onwards. Haven't even looked at it. I'll assume it's the same 6-speed manual. I have driven one. I drove it. I didn't like the drive of it before we made our purchase, which made my decision of paying the extra $3,000 to get the auto. The auto, 6-speed, whatever the number is, I don't know, I can't remember, something or other. It might be something or other with a 60 in it, okay? Can't remember all the numbers, whatever, right? Doesn't matter, because we're not going to see any issues with them. Awesome, smooth, beautiful transmission like the A750, right? Except an extra gear. That's the way I see it. The gearing doesn't work that well with the 1GD. You're probably better off saving your $3,000 and going for the manual, as long as you don't go in mud. If you're going to go out in mud and bog holes, get the auto, right? No problem, just deal with it, pay the $3,000. If you're going to be towing a caravan or something, I don't recommend the vehicle for that. I don't even recommend you buy one. I don't recommend you don't buy one either. It suits some people. That's another video. I'm not recommending whether you buy a 1GD or not. Just be aware of the whole engine, how much power and torque it's really got, okay? How suitable it really is for towing or not, and whether that auto or manual suits you. It costs about $3,000 more for the auto, okay? You're going to get better fuel economy out of the manual. It's going to work better, okay? If I had my time again, I would buy a 6-speed manual if I purchased another 1GD, if I had to. I don't think I would ever buy another 1GD again. So there's, you know, I'm not saying to buy one or not. I'm not giving you that advice. It's a separate video. Perhaps we'll do a separate video. So if you haven't already, subscribe so you can catch that one. What else can I tell you? Auto, manual, pros and cons. Okay, let's go to the autos now. So we talked about the 5-speed and the 6-speed. I think we covered that. Now, this isn't scripted, guys. It's off the topic. So I hope you like it, because I reckon I've covered just about everything. If I haven't, you can ask the question. You know, I probably won't answer on the questions on the YouTube because I'm busy, but I do skim through. If it's a good comment, I'll give it a quick thumbs up. And if it's rubbish, maybe I'll just delete it, because we're not up for rubbish, not interested. Or if it's wrong information or a link to something that we don't believe in, you've just lost your comment, because we're not going to promote stuff unless we believe in it, if you know what I mean. But I do consider it, and I keep that in mind when I make another video, and that's what I'm doing now, because a lot of people do ask not only which Prado to buy, which engine and which auto, and maybe another video we're going to go through pros and cons of the 120, the 150. We may have done that already, but anyway, the autos, a bit opposite to the manual. So we kind of like the earlier 5-speed manual because of the design of the front with that cast bit that comes off that we don't have problems with, and we don't really like the 6-speed because of the wear and the expensive fix on that. You know, you can apparently get it sleeved, this and that. You can replace the front of the box. You could probably clean it up and throw a bearing on and hope for the best as well, right? Onto the auto though. It's a bit opposite, right? The 4-speed auto, it's not a problem transmission, but we have heard of some problems. Remembering they've done hundreds of thousands of Ks, probably without an oil change, probably done a lot of towing, and probably not being driven right. When I say driven right, torque converter lock, which I'm pretty sure I explained in another video, and we'll probably get round to doing that again. So torque converter lock's important, but the 4-speeds, we've heard some, oh, this one's been rebuilt, replaced, whatever the case may be. So there is some issues with those, so I'm not going to tell you they're bulletproof. They may eventually wear like other transmissions do. I still think they're a very good transmission. The one transmission I know of that was rebuilt, an A750 5-speed, I don't know what went wrong with it. Maybe he put a rock through the transmission pan, I really don't know, but I noticed it wasn't original. I spoke to the owner, and it wasn't the current owners that got the transmission, it was the previous owner. So this is my R&D. I contacted the previous owner and have a discussion with him. He said when they, I can't remember what the reason was, but when they rebuilt it, the transmission specialist, this is at 300,000 Ks, guys, 300,000 Ks on an A750 in a 120 Prado behind a 1KD, the transmission specialist words to the owner that was getting the works done, I can't believe the condition of the clutches and that, they were virtually like new. So it just goes to show you how much they don't wear and how long they're going to last, and why I'm going to say I think they're just almost bulletproof, these A750Fs. Okay, so love the 5-speed auto. I believe the 6-speed's probably going to be about the same. It's a little bit disadvantaged because it runs a lot hotter. Instead of running around about the 80-degree mark, you know, which is kind of ideal, they run more around the 100-degree mark. They do a lot more slipping. There's a lot more gears. It's a lot harder to get converter lock. It's a lot harder to keep it. Slider still, it unlocks in 6th. Even if you put it in 5th, slider still, it unlocks in 5th. You got to go back to 4th to keep your converter lock a decent amount of time, which at 100 Ks has you up at about 3 grand. So the whole gearing and converter lock on the 6-speed doesn't work well, is what I'm trying to tell you. So I hope that feedback is helping you make a decision, perhaps, although we're not trying to help you make a decision, just give you the information to make. That's what we do. It's just information, so you can hopefully use that information. Okay, so we've covered generally auto, manual, what's better. We've covered that we think manual's better for towing. We've covered we think that auto in the 5-speed is more reliable, even the 6-speed for that matter, even the 4-speed. Look, auto is probably your most reliable option, and it's the biggest outlay to buy new, but your running cost will be the lowest. There's no clutch to change. There's minimal oil changes compared to a manual, and there's not going to be any surprises, okay, particularly with the 5 and 6-speed. So auto is your answer. Auto rules in the Toyotas. As I said though, the best manual, I think, is that 5-speed R151 behind a lot of Hilux engines, and also behind, like I said, the 1KZ, and it went to the 6-speed when the 1KD comes out, if I've got it right, unless there was a bit of a change. Depends what country as well. We're talking Australia, okay? Anyway, guys, that's about it. Bada bing, bada boom. This is Bunnings tonight. I hope you get my picture with the coronavirus for all the locals that are watching in Australia, and I suppose it's relevant for anyone around the world really to understand, you know, and I look forward to any comments there to do with, you know, proper information about this virus. Like I said, it's really unfortunate the way some people have been left. Obviously all these guys have still got their jobs, they're out spending money, or they've got plenty of money, so that's cool, but not everybody's in that boat. There's people at home trying to stop the spread of this disease, and they're just getting aggravated by seeing what they see. So I hope, you know, staying home is awesome. I still don't have a problem with going for a drive, okay, even though they're you know, they're not saying it's a rule, they're saying stay home if you don't need to go out. That's cool, but what they mean is stay home, because as soon as you go to a pub, you don't go to your friend's house, you don't go to your family's house, you don't go to the shops, you don't go to Bunnings, you don't go anywhere. Is what the reason they're saying it is because they don't want you to do those things, okay? Even though they said, oh, don't do it too much, not much. That's wrong. If you don't want to spread it, you don't go anywhere unless you're on your own. But even places where you're going to be on your own, they've closed those and stop you from going to there, like beaches, okay? So don't go there. Don't go to beaches. Don't go anywhere. Go for a drive, I think's okay, because I've got to be honest here. People could be doing this. The right people have started already. This could go on for some time, and they're going to be doing it for weeks or months. If you think you're going to sit in your house behind your own fences and not step outside your property and see any real life activity for a month, you're dreaming. Now obviously you probably don't have to do it every day, but I suggest you get out a couple of times a week, Go for a drive. Don't go cause traffic anywhere. Go for a drive. You go for a drive along the beach. Go for a drive somewhere. Get out. You got to keep your sanity. You know, they said mental health is important also, and it's part of that. So part of this video is to get out. There's nothing wrong. I'm not spreading anything I've got or receiving from anyone else, right? So there's nothing wrong with getting out. And if you're going to see someone, there's ways to do things safely. If you've got to pick up, drop off, whatever. But I suggest you avoid your takeaways as much as they're open, your retail stores, and that's what's going to help, okay? It's conflicting information. Stay at home, don't go out unless you need to. But the takeaway's open. The fish and chip shops, every shop's open for takeaway, even in the food court at the shopping centre, even the retail stores. Some of them have shut themselves down because they've worked out that the people doing the right thing aren't there, the money's not being spent. Probably window shoppers kicking around anyway because nobody wants to spend money, maybe. I don't know. I think people are spending money. Plenty of people are spending money, guys. Now, if you've lost your job, check out Woolworths, Coles, Bunnings, all these people, particularly the supermarkets, essential supplies. People need to eat. They're not going to be closing. Worst case scenario, they close to online delivery. So stop hoarding. Stop doing that, okay? Shop once a week for what you need for the next week. Maybe get a couple extra things, you know, just to keep you going in case because you are home, you're going to eat more. To be honest, I'm isolated when I work, so I'm either home with a family or at work on my own, so I like to get out and about. Usually I'll go out and get some lunch. I'll pick out healthy lunches as best as I can, either really nice food or lunches. Quite often I'll have a lunch out. So I'm not really being able to do that. So that means we're going to go through more food at home. So things are going to change a bit. Kids are home, they're normally at school. I think, you know, they're just going to eat more. We're just going to sit around. Actually, no. I'm going to tell you a little secret. First time in my life since I was a teenager, lowest record weight I've been for quite some time now, for a year or so, 2 years maybe. Cracked the 100 kilo mark. We're 99 kilos this morning. So bada boom, bada bing. So even though we seem to be sitting around, getting a lot of work done around the house, okay, I'm still there for parts. There's ways. It'll be under my rules. If somebody wants to come and pick up parts, we can do that. But it's going to be make your payment. We'll work that out. There's your kit packed. There it is in a box. There it is. Come and pick it up. We're going to stay 4 meters away from each other. Okay. I'm going to disinfect everything I touch. It's going to go into your box, and I suggest you do the same when you unpack it. And that's cleaner than anything going in and out of this Bunnings store, right? So what I'm saying is a bit of common sense. I'm allowed to trade, but I'm trying not to trade. But if you want to get your injectors done while you've got some time off, or your water pump, big front end kit, Prado front wheel bearings, whatever, it's good to support the businesses as well, right? Same thing like with Dobinson's. If you need a suspension kit, I can get a drop ship delivered to your door, no problem at this stage, right? Things may change, but at the moment, it's not a problem. I hope you understand that, what I'm trying to say. At the moment, I'm prepared to go to the post office once a week. I'm going to go to the post office on Mondays, okay? With PPE and everything, mate. It freaks people out. I love it. I like to demonstrate how important it is, and then they can go home and tell everybody what they saw. Everybody's wearing masks now. Everyone's wearing glasses and hats and helmets and suits, hazmat suits, whatever, right? So anyway, whatever it takes to get people to think this is what this is all about, while including auto versus manual. Okay, I hope you got it. I hope you got the auto versus manual with all that information. Bada boom, bada bing. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Take it easy, take care of yourselves, and stay away from this virus. You don't want it.